So we will go back to our morning agenda. And item number 15.
4 o'clock, right? Mayor, don't we have to take those up at 4?
Item number 15 is 4 o'clock. So excuse me just a second here. Item number 19. Item number 19 was pulled for speakers. We have a number of speakers signed up, approximately 1.5 hours of testimony. Council, knowing that we have dealt with this issue over a long period of time, received and assimilated a lot of information, committee hearings from a council subcommittee, it's within our authority to limit testimony to any amount that we would choose, so I'll entertain a suggestion along that lines. Otherwise, we'll proceed through the hearing. Councilmember Spellman.
Mayor, it seems to me that 45 minutes should be enough time for people to be able to make all the points that they need to make. If they need a little bit of time to figure out how to organize themselves to do that, I think they could still have the same effect on us and make exactly the same points they'd like to, but not take quite so much of the public's time.
Okay, so is there any objection to limiting testimony to 45 minutes total? Hearing none, we will now go into recess for 5 minutes to allow the speakers to organize their order and their time. Well, we could, that's a good idea. We could just disregard the recess. I was looking forward to that. So that brings us back to item 29. I haven't received any indication of a preferred order. So the council has decided to limit discussion, public comment, to 45 minutes total. I'll just go through the list until we reach 45 minutes. Yes. 19 is what I'm talking about. If you want to come forward, and do you have a listing? Pardon? 45 minutes. We're going to go 3 minutes at a time. Depends on what their list says. I haven't seen anything. So
Cat Bush coming first, and John Bush second, and then Ray Olnick.
Well, you have to make me a list at some point. I'll go ahead and take the first speaker, let the first speaker start, and somebody make me a list and pass it to Mayor Pro Tem Cole so we can get it up here. So the first speaker is who?
My name is Catherine Bleish. I'm John Bush's wife. Bleish.
Okay, so you're taking 3 minutes, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right.
All right. Well, hi. I'm here today with my children. I appreciate you, dealing with the noises that come with them. I'm here because I am concerned about this issue of fluoride in the water. I've testified before you once before. It was 4 years ago. It was about fusion centers. And unfortunately, all the things I predicted are happening here in Austin with our own local Occupy movement. Your fusion center infiltrated and set people up, which is a disaster. So I hope that you're willing to take a deep breath and listen with me today, because this is really personal to my family. When I got pregnant with my daughter in 2011, my husband John and I decided to move to Creedmoor to get away from the fluoride in the water. When my daughter was 3 months old, fluoride-free Austin tested our water, and it came back at 1.1 parts per million. We were very confused because this is much higher than even Austin fluoridates at 0.7. So we called Creedmoor, and they told us the state had restricted them digging or pumping water from their own wells, and they were buying water from Austin. So even though I tried to get away from your toxic dump of a water supply, it followed me and it haunted me. And my daughter's teeth came in with fluorosis because I drank your toxic water with no one letting me know while I was pregnant, with fluoride filters sitting in my closet because I believed I was drinking clean water. I feel betrayed, and I believe that each and every one of you owe my daughter an apology. So I hope you can think long and hard about the actions you're taking today, and at least consider postponing this. If you don't have the cojones to say no, at least say wait. Let's do more research and let's make sure we are not destroying the teeth and bones of other people in our community. My husband was born with fluorosis or developed it through his life, and my daughter was born with it. That is wrong and that is cruel, and you all have a moral duty to stop poisoning your community. I beg of you, do it now, do it today. Stand up for humanity and do what is right. Stop bowing down to CDC grants or whatever it is that make you think that you need to poison our water, because it is unacceptable, it is intolerable, and not everyone knows the damage that it is doing. If I had the choice, I would have not had to buy a fluoride filter in the first place, and I would have not had a daughter born with fluorosis, but I did. You all are haunting people outside of your own community, and that is cruel. Stop now. Thank you.
Next speaker is Neil Carmen. Neil Carmen. I don't have a list. And John Bush, and I need a list, otherwise we're going to need to go back to the order you're signed up in. John, you have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon, Council. It's been a while since I addressed this body. The last time I was here, I spoke to you about how displeased I was that I was threatened with arrest should I grace this body with my presence again. That was a while ago. And since then, I've grown more displeased with politics as a whole, with the idea that in order to solve our common problems, we ought to rely on a coercive institution like the City of Austin Incorporated or the state of Texas or even the United States of America. Since then, I've launched a 501c3 nonprofit. It's called the Center for Natural Living. The mission is to demonstrate the value of voluntary cooperation and natural living in the areas of sustainability, family, and health by creating educational media and helping families to fulfill their basic needs. And because I grew tired of waiting for you guys to do the right thing, we launched a program called the Austin Safe Water Initiative in partnership with Fluoride+Free Austin. And we're purchasing 100 fluoride water filters and giving them to low-income families who would prefer not to drink Austin fluoridated water. A lot of people believe that we ought to fluoridate the water because there's low-income families that can't afford proper dental care. Well, on that same token, there's low-income families that can't afford water filtration. And I talked to the mayor before out in the hallway, and he indicated that he uses a fluoride for his water. I remember Ray asking the entire body if they use fluoridated, if they use water filters for their water. I think most people either didn't respond in the negative or responded in the affirmative. There's a lot of people that can't afford it. I think it's wrong. Ronnie Reeferseed referenced earlier that he thought perhaps you guys were taking bribes. You know, I think that's a little bit of a stretch. People are trying to look for answers as to why, after 5 years of hard concrete evidence, even Harvard's coming out with studies now saying it reduces IQ. Why would they continue why would our calls fall on deaf ears? And I think that the bribe thing may not be that far off base, but I think it's coming in the form of federal grants from the Center for Disease Control. We tried to fight against the scanner coming to ABIA. Mayor Leffingwell said we could lose FAA grants. We fought against the Fusion Center. I'm sure you guys wouldn't want to roll that back because you could lose Department of Homeland Security grants. So my hypothesis is the reason why each one of you are failing to act on such a critical issue is because you're afraid if you shake up the boat, if you buck the status quo, that the city will lose out on what you see as much-needed federal grants. Is that the case? Does anybody want to be frank with me? Because I know y'all are intelligent people. I don't think you're as corrupt as some people think, at least most of y'all. And it's my belief that it's because you believe we'll lose out on CDC grants. Can somebody give me some feedback? Because we're looking for answers here. And that bottom left picture that we just passed around is my daughter. She has dental fluorosis. That's the visual demonstration of what could possibly be a deeper-rooted problem in her bones, increasing the risk of osteosarcoma, all sorts of problems.
Time's
is it
up.
the CDC
Time's
grants?
up, John. And by the way, you're not signed up on the list, but you had your 3 minutes anyway.
If it is, please reconsider, guys.
Okay.
15 minutes.
All right. Next is Ray Nadler Olenek, and donating time is Walt Olenek here. Is Walt here?
Chris, we don't know our last name.
Chris, what's your last name? Oh, they're on the list here. Right, I'm calling off the names now. Kristax Clark. Krista Clark.
I've donated
Okay.
my time to Ray.
Yes, I know. That's why I'm calling your name. Stephanie Acosta. Stephanie Acosta here is here. I know. Cairo DeAngelis is here. So, Ray, you now have 15 minutes. Yes. Yeah, you're on the list. Down the ways. No, you really. You got 15 minutes here, Ms. Olenek.
Good afternoon. I'm going to do something unusual. I'm going to play a video clip. It's actually of the water and wastewater meeting of the 12th of this month, and afterwards, time permitting, I'm going to show a few slides I wasn't able to show at that time. Thank you.
That takes us to item D4, which is recommend approval to award and execute a 24-month requirement supply contract with Mosaic Corp Nutrition LLC for the purpose of fluoride+austin acid, I don't know if I pronounced that correctly or not, for the Austin Water Utility in an amount not to exceed $1,110,450, with two 12-month extension options in amounts not to exceed $555,225 per extension option, for a total contract amount not to exceed $2,220,900. Let's take the citizen communication on this. We have Ray Nadler Olenek. Close enough.
Good evening, Commission members. 2 years ago, KITV conducted a survey in which 49% of Austinites called water fluoridation a waste of money. Now, that's no fringe group. That's half the city, substantially. So, since the survey was expressed strictly in terms of money considerations and not health or science or anything like that, I'll stick to the economics of it. Why do half of Austinites consider fluoridation a waste of money? Well, good question. Could it be because it obviously doesn't work for its stated purpose, preventing tooth decay? There's just as much tooth decay as ever among the underserved segments of the population, and if you check around, as the City Council has not bothered to do, you'll soon see. Or could it be that people know that we're already saturated with fluoride from our environment, from toothpaste, our processed foods, nonstick cookware, pharmaceuticals, and so on, and people just don't see a reason to spend millions of dollars on more. Whatever their concern, it's certainly worth serious consideration. Now, for over 5 years, concerned citizens here have been regularly speaking before the City Council in an effort to educate them about the downside of water fluoridation. The present council has adamantly refused to listen. Come November, Austin city government will have a whole new look, and at least part of the reason for that hard-won change in government was the present and recent council's unwillingness to listen to ordinary citizens, to the concerns of everyday citizens as opposed to political insiders. The new city council may have different ideas about the wasteful fluoridation system that was set up here 40-plus years ago and positioned as an entitlement. I have two proposals here, and the first one is table item D4 until next month. The citizen traditionally signs this contract in March anyway, and since you will next meet on March 12th and regular city council meetings are scheduled for the 20th and 27th, that allows plenty of time for council action. And meantime, I do have some educational materials and things that I could present to some of you to just have you thinking about this situation more. And understand why wisdom dictates an end to the expenditure of millions of dollars for a toxic chemical, which provides no benefit. Second, if you must, you are an advisory commission and you're not required to advise the city council to do something that's not in the public interest. Second, if you must recommend a contract, limit it to a one-year contract. At a time when the future of fluoridation is in doubt, this is the most prudent way to succeed, and thank you for your time. Now, do I have a little more time, as if I had my husband's also, because I have something on a totally different subject and charter? May I continue, or shall I sit down?
Is it on this item D4?
It's on item D4. It's a little bit different. I wish that I had the ability to project slides, but we are constantly being told that this chemical the city is buying is the same thing that's found naturally in the water, and that they're just adjusting upwards something which is already there. Well, I have found a company that provides both the natural fluoride, which is called calcium fluoride, it's a reagent, and fluorosilicic acid, such as we use. And I have the product sheets. They're called MSDS sheets, comparing these two products, and anybody can look and see with their own eyes that this is not the same product, and that the artificial one, the one we buy, is rated much more poisonous, much more toxic. I have one hard copy of each of those here. I could leave them for the record. And also that in the Austin Water Utilities tank, the storage tank, they've actually given it an even higher rating for danger hazard. And I'll conclude with that. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Ms. Naylor. Commissioner Clark, you had questions on this item?
Yes, do I need to move this?
It'll pick it.
Okay. I don't know who the appropriate staff member is to inquire. All right, thanks. I'd appreciate some answers. I did do a little reading and did some research on the fluoride issue, and I would come at this assuming that the city is acting in the best interest of its citizens. So I'm just trying to understand the process y'all use to do this, even though you do it every year. I understand this contract is for fluorosilicic acid from a crop nutrition company. It says, I assume this is a byproduct of fertilizer production. So is this pharmaceutical grade fluorosilicic acid or sort of industrial grade?
Do I have to push a button?
No, you're good.
Okay, sorry. I'm Jane Brazier. I'm the Assistant Director of the Treatment Program. For the first part of your question, we have been fluoridating the water in Austin since 1973, I believe it is. In December 2011, the City Council passed a resolution requiring that we continue to feed the fluoride, and that was based on recommendations from the Health and Human Services Department. I do have a copy of that resolution here if you would like to see it. So essentially under the council resolution, we are required to fluoridate. In the drinking water industry, the chemicals we feed must all meet NSF 60 requirements, which is not necessarily pharmaceutical grade. but it has a purity level that's expected that it has to meet, and the NSF does the testing of the chemicals.
Okay. Do you know if this batch is tested for arsenic?
The chemicals are tested for, we don't test each batch that comes in for arsenic, but they are tested for arsenic.
Because my understanding was that the NSF standards do allow for some concentration of arsenic, which the EPA says you shouldn't have in drinking water.
The difference is going to be the levels. I would have to pull the NSF data on that, which I do have and I can forward to you. And we can compare that against the EPA levels for drinking water.
Okay. So from the utilities perspective, you're just fulfilling a council resolution?
Yes.
Okay. So I find this all very interesting. One of the most interesting things I found was originally the idea was, well, this is all for tooth decay, right?
Right.
To prevent tooth decay. The idea was you put it in the water, and when you drink it, it strengthens your teeth. The more recent research shows that the activation of fluoride is actually topical, which is why it's a toothpaste. So I have some concerns that we're putting something that's basically a medical treatment for a medical condition of tooth decay into the drinking water for everyone without any control over the dosage of that medicine, if you will. Because babies who are drinking infant formula are consuming a much higher proportion of water for their body weight. Are they getting too much fluoride? I think there are a lot of questions about the effectiveness and the risks, and I think if tooth decay is the big problem, there are better ways to address it than putting fluoride in the drinking water. But I appreciate your perspective on this.
I have a few questions to follow up. Are there any safety guidelines that that the utility is guided by when adding fluoride into the water?
Yes, we follow the. Okay, first you have EPA has a primary and secondary maximum contaminant levels. The primary maximum contaminant level is 4 parts per million. The secondary is 2 parts per million. But we follow the CDC guidelines, which is Center for Disease Control. They recently lowered their levels, where it used to be like 0.7 to 1.2, I think it is. It's now 0.7 to 1. We're in a warmer climate. The expectation is people would drink more, so we stay closer to the lower end of it. Our fluoride is naturally occurring at about 0.25 parts per million, and we raise it to the 0.7 level.
Commissioners, any other questions? We have a motion on this item.
I move to approve item D4. Or recommend item D4.
Do we have a second on the motion? Seconded by Commissioner Lee. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Show Commissioners Moriarty, Lee, Castleberry, Fishbeck, Gray, and O'Hare, voting yea. Are there any nays? Commissioner Clark voting nay. And no abstentions. Thank you.
Okay, now I'm just going to show a few slides that they were not set up to show at the time. Could we have those, please? This is the famous fluoride survey less than 2 years ago, showing that in spite of all the propaganda in favor of fluoride, half of the city is onto the scam. And secondly, okay, it's not, okay. So I clicked past it, and now I can't get it again. I want the second slide. Yeah. Okay, I found a company. It's not Mosaic, because Mosaic doesn't sell both natural and artificial and hydrofluorosilicic toxic waste fluoride. But I found a company that did, and I decided to get those MSDS sheets for easy comparison. And there's only one thing you have to look at. Some of you are going to claim you don't have the education or brain power or whatever to understand, but there's only one thing to look at here. In the triangle, the diamond diagram toward the upper left is a diamond, no, back to the other one. How did it flip? Is a diamond, a blue diamond with a number 2 in it. That represents toxicity. They call it health, meaning health hazard, but that's the toxicity too. Look at it, calcium fluoride, natural calcium. Now here, from the same company, is the product we use, fluorosilicic acid. Look at the blue diamond diagram, 3 for toxicity. This is not the same product. And in fact, natural calcium is natural, okay? And now here's what the good folks at the Austin Water Utility who actually work with it give it for a rating, a toxicity rating. 4. They gave it more than even the manufacturer. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Nick Lucier. And you're signed up for 3 minutes.
Good afternoon. My name is Nicholas Lucier. I was part of the 14-day hunger strike out here protesting the artificial fluoridation of the water supply with hydrofluorosilicic acid. So much to say, so little time. Since then, we've started a political action committee called Healthy H2O Austin. We've started an Indiegogo campaign. We're going to bring this to a public vote either this November or this May, depending on which one is more strategically viable, and we're going to do it. We're going to take this out. If y'all don't have the chutzpah to uphold the oath of office, then why did you take it? This is not okay. And if you think this is going to be an Obama whitewash of the last administration, you're wrong. I'll investigate every single one of you for criminal misconduct, holding the oath of office. This is no laughing matter. So when I sit up here for 3 hours and watch Leffingwell come and go, take interviews during Citizen Communique, and when he gets back, laugh at a man who has to sit down to give his presentation and then rudely cut him off, I'm appalled that this is a government of, for, and by the people. Who are you representing? I don't treat nobody like that. I don't have alarms right here that go off in their heads when it's time's up to stop talking because you said so. No, I wait for them to finish and politely tell them their time is done. Thank you very much for caring enough to come out here. I think it's funny that we've teamed up with Hackney all the way in London as a sister city because the chemical element on the periodic table is F. There's an international producer out of Hackney called Rusko, and he starts one of his songs, and I'll edit it for content. But wake the F up. That's how the song starts. Yeah.
If the song uses the F word, it'll be stopped and your time will be terminated.
That's why I edited it.
Okay. Go ahead. I just
For your
wanted to give you
ears
advance
there.
Notice.
So the EPA's allowable limits for arsenic are set at 10 parts per billion. They're the same organization that allows hydrofluorosilicic acid to be added to the water, which contains arsenic. Their stated goal for arsenic is 0. I wonder why we never reach our goals in this country anymore. It's not profitable to do so. And if you don't know what corporate welfare is, welcome to it. Because you've got an organization getting paid billions of dollars now to rid themselves of their toxic waste, which is the reason the EPA has them capturing these chemicals in the first place. Why is it the EPA that's regulating this and not the Food and Drug Administration, who's supposed to oversee medicine? Just a thought.
All right, Stephanie Nasser. And you have 3 minutes.
All right. Hello, fellow citizens who happen to be elected to represent us. I'm actually glad that you're sitting down, Lee. I thought you would get up. I saw you get up during the citizen communication, so I'm happy that you're sitting here and hopefully listening to us. I hope that you guys see, because so many people signed up to speak, that this is a huge issue, especially in comparison to all the other speakers that showed up. I hope that you guys heard the people that spoke where their children were actually affected by this. These are real people that have real concerns about this, that are worried. It comes out in different ways. It comes out through rage. It comes out through scientific evidence trying to, but that seems to not stick with you guys. So I'm here just to be another voice and another face for you to know. I suffer from joint pain a lot of the times, and who are you to tell me that I have to drink the water that might be causing that pain? Hydrofluorosic acid has shown to have those symptoms, arthritis. I'm 23 years old. I shouldn't have signs of arthritis, but I do. So there were also 2 gentlemen that were sitting out there on the front steps protesting, hungry for 14 days. They did not sleep at home. They were out there in 18-degree weather to protest this, to try to be the voices for the people so that we could be heard. We thought that that would work, which a hunger strike is pretty radical. And the fact that you guys have not responded to it, it's insulting. I just want to say shame on you. Shame on you for taking away the hope. I have so many friends that are against this, that would not come out to speak because they did not think you would listen to us. What kind of government is that? Shame on you. We're going to do this with your permission or without your permission. Like Nick mentioned, we're starting to get a public initiative going. Healthy H2O Austin is our political action committee that we started. So we're going to do this, like I said, whether you guys are down or not. But I guess the point is, what side of history do you want to be on? Do you want to be the good guys or the bad guys? Because eventually it's going to happen. Thank you.
Linda Green. And donating time to Linda is Karen Rennick. Is Karen here? Okay, you have 6 minutes, Linda.
Thank you, City Council. For 5.5 years, we've been presenting you with facts and evidence, and today I'm not going to stop. I'm going to be reading from Mosaic's own material safety data sheet, and I'll just keep reading till I run out of time. But from my own notes, I ask you, I implore of you, please don't act out of fear of going against the hand that feeds you, i.e., the CDC, that gives millions of dollars to our Health and Human Services Department via Dr. Wang for his anti-smoking campaign. And please don't act out of the archaic ideology that's been floating around for the last 40 years here in Austin. Look at the facts found here in your material safety data sheet presented by Mosaic, and look at the Fluoride Action Network, which has presented so much evidence to you over the past few years, and leave us the legacy of an end to water fluoridation. And if you cannot do this, at least postpone your vote so that the next City Council can take the proper actions. So our material safety data sheet provided by Mosaic is required by law, and it's hydrofluorosilicic acid, hexafluorosilicic acid, or fluorosilicic acid. That's what you're adding to our water. It's corrosive to the skin, eyes, and mucous membranes through direct contact, inhalation, or ingestion. May cause severe irritation, burns, which may not be immediately apparent. Handle with extreme care. To the eyes, corrosive contact may cause severe irritation, eye burns, permanent eye damage. Skin, corrosive contact may cause severe irritation, skin burns, and permanent skin damage. Inhalation, breathing it, corrosive, harmful if inhaled, may cause severe irritation and burns of the nose, throat, and respiratory tract. You should have a copy of this. Ingesting or swallowing, corrosive, harmful, fatal if swallowed, may cause severe irritation and burns of the mouth, throat, and digestive tract. Signs and symptoms, effects of overexposure, and like Ray said, we get fluoride from pesticides, from different kinds of cookware. Effects of overexposure may include severe irritation and burns of the mouth, nose, throat, respiratory, and digestive tract. Symptoms of overexposure may include ulceration of the nose, throat, coughing, salivation, headaches, fatigue, dizziness, nausea, shock, and pulmonary edema. May lead to coma or death. Onset of symptoms
Thank you, Linda.
I have 3 more minutes, right? Donated by
Did you start her
Karen.
with 6 or 3? Okay, you have 3 more.
Prolonged or repeated exposure to fluoride compounds may cause skeletal fluorosis. And if you'll put up the picture of children with dental fluorosis is an outward sign of fluoride poisoning. Skeletal fluorosis also is probably occurring in these children and adults who have dental fluorosis. Prolonged or repeated overexposure to fluoride compounds may cause fluorosis. Fluorosis is characterized by skeletal changes consisting of osteosclerosis, hardening or abnormal density of the bone, and osteomalacia, softening of the bones, and by mottled discoloration of the enamel of the teeth if exposure occurs during enamel formation. Symptoms may include bone and joint pain and limited range of motion. Conditions aggravated by exposure may include skin and respiratory disorders. And here's another warning on a container that has hydrofluorosilicic acid. In fine print, it says directions for H2O fluoridation. Application of this product for water fluoridation is subject to approval of all interested state and local authorities. It should conform to the American Water Works Association Statement of Recommended Policy and Procedure. The American Water Works Association, that's just a trade organization. It's not a health facility that's counseling you. Exact dosage must not raise the total fluoride concentration in drinking water above 1.5 parts per million. But the point is that you're not just adding calcium fluoride, you're not adding the expensive pharmaceutical grade fluoride, which we would all deserve if fluoride was even a requirement, a dietary requirement, and it's not. And just keep in mind that these side effects of dental fluorosis, skeletal fluorosis, crippling arthritis, thyroid disease is your action to medicate us without our consent at one size dose fits all. And it's harmful to people, pets, and plants. And we want you to please do the right thing, have some integrity, and save the taxpayers a couple of $1 million every couple of years, or every 4 years as you intend to poison us as you leave office, and put that money into education programs for children's nutrition. And maybe Mayor's Neighborhood Organic Gardens, because our gardens don't need fluoridated water either. You're adding poison to our waste, and we would implore you to do the right thing. And I'll just keep reading some of these. Here's something, small spills. If we have a small spill at our water facility, contain the spill and stop the leak if it can be done without risk. There is nothing but risk. Thank you.
Neil Carmen. Three minutes, Neil.
Thank you, Mayor Leffingwell, council members. My name is Neil Carmen. I'm with the Sierra Club. I worked on environmental toxic chemical exposure issues for over 22 years in Texas. Yesterday, I dropped off a copy of a letter that I've written to you and a new study by 2 pediatricians that came out just a week ago titled Neurobehavioral Effects of Developmental Toxicity. And it was published in the journal Lancet Neurology. And it does identify fluoride as a developmental neurotoxin. One of the concerns about the fluoride that can be drunk by mothers is that it's a very tiny molecule. So it easily goes through the placenta into the developing fetus. And so there is exposure occurring during pregnancy, and then after the child is born. It's also very sensitive to the fluoride. Dr. Philip Grandjean at the Harvard School of Public Health and Dr. Philip Landergren, a pediatrician at the Mount Sinai Medical School in New York City, commented, "The developing human brain is uniquely vulnerable to toxic chemical exposures, and major windows of developmental vulnerability occur in utero and during infancy and early childhood." They go on to state, "The fetus is not well protected against industrial chemicals. The placenta does not block the passage of environmental toxicants from the maternal to the fetal circulation, and more than 200 foreign chemicals have been detected in umbilical cord blood." They conclude disorders of neurobehavioral development affect 10 to 15% of all births, and prevalence of autism spectrum disorder and attention deficit disorder seem to be increasing worldwide. So I would encourage you to, look at this seriously, and to maybe, if you aren't sure what to do today, postpone it. Let the new council decide on this. Mosaic produces phosphate fertilizer, and this company is producing an industrial waste product. It's not something that's needed in the water supply. People can get it in their toothpaste, their mouthwash, if they want it. And the CDC determined 10 years ago that actually it works more effectively topically rather than being ingested. So take a look at this study that I left at your office. These are two preeminent pediatricians, and I've met them both in recent years, and I think you should look at this study in terms of the fact that fluoride is a developmental neurotoxin. Thank you.
Jason Needham. And you have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon. One corporation's waste is our nation's treasure. The American flag that I pledge allegiance to comes with a certain pecking order, and that is God created man, man created the Constitution created government, and government created corporations. Now I ask you, is that what we currently see today in America? No, it's rhetorical. With that being said, please take the acid out of the water. I beg you. It saves us money. It spends us no money. And when I am alone at home at night and I am forced to drink a glass of water or die of dehydration, and I think, what can I do to stop this? And the only person I can really turn to is God. And I pray to God. I say, God, please communicate to the powers that be. Find your way into them and have them make the right choice. Please, God, I can only do what I can do. I do not have financial swing. People will not vote for me. I'm completely reliant on external sources, and I just beg you to the scale of money and morality to turn it the other way in morality, because it's crazy that 7% of the entire world is fluoridated. America is half of that number. So this is definitely an outdated practice, and at very least, it does nothing for us, to be kind. I mean, it does nothing for us at very least. So please take it out of the water. Thank you.
We have time for 2 more speakers. The next is Alex Little. Alex Little. So you have 3 minutes.
Thank you.
So this is my first time participating in any form of like city government. It's kind of disheartening for me because I don't know, this is we're telling you the truth. It's not like the facts are made up. It's like this is a toxic chemical. It's not necessary in our water, and we're spending $2 million on this. Like, what is the purpose of it? And can I ask you a question? Mayor or anyone?
Purpose is to address the council.
Why are we spending this money on a potentially harmful substance that we don't need in the water? We don't need to dictate what people are doing with their teeth. Let them brush their teeth or let them not. Why are we doing this?
We can sit here and look at each other for 2 minutes and 20 seconds more if you like, but
okay, that's what I'm going to do.
I will refer you to the backup material on the agenda.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
William King.
Mr. Spellman, Council, it's an honor to be here today. I believe earlier we were talking about with great power comes great responsibility. That's Voltaire from 19th century France. But,
I remember Uncle Ben's version. Sorry.
Lee did quote that too in his comic books. But what I want to talk to y'all today is I appreciate y'all having me up here to let me talk. I know you've heard a lot of people up over here talking a lot of emotions go along with this subject. And hopefully I can come up here and give you a calm version from just a normal citizen who's lived in this town I'm 34 years old. And I do have fluorosis. I have 5 children and a wife who I'm sorry if it's already done, but I have 5 children and a wife that I'm up here representing today. And I want the very best for them. Having fluoride in the water, all the research I've done, it's not good for us. If at very least, if y'all could please, I implore you, make it optional. There's opt-outs for all sorts of things. Reduce the amounts. Do something. Put off the vote until another council or whatever. I mean, I'll sit down with each one of you. I'm a decent person, and I'll sit there and I'll give you every bit of information that I've come across. I implore you, please take it out of the water. I don't know why. I understand that it's a very political subject. Everybody's emotional about it. But, okay, let me get to a few different things before I run out of time. Mr. Martinez, you talked about budgets and saving money and taking that money and using it for redevelopments and Dove Springs and other things. $2 million right there. There's the whole environmental effects of this. It's cumulative, so it soaks into our groundwaters. It's the food supply. It's the drinking waters. It's everything else. It's cumulative in our bones. I've lived here for 34 years. If I'm planning on staying here, I love this town. I'm not leaving. I'm raising my kids here because it's a great place, everything else around it. Just the fact that I can stand here today and talk to y'all, I appreciate that very much. But it's cumulative. It stays in our health system. There's no benefit. No tax increases. We talked about your taxes. It's $2 million. We can spend it for something else. We have a running, healthy community. They drink a lot of water, obviously. We can ban bags. I mean, it's kind of a nasty subject there, but can we please get rid of the fluoride? Can we ban that too? And then how about putting vitamins and minerals in the water? It saved me some money on supplements and my family. And then you have the health effects on the trees. We talked about trees earlier today. $4 billion worth of trees in just the city-owned utilities. And I just implore you, please.
Thank you, Mr. King.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Tavo. I appreciate it.
That's our 45 minutes of public testimony. Entertain a motion on item 19. Councilmember Morrison.
I'm going to go ahead and move that we approve this item. I think that I want to note that there was a comment at the commission that the reason we do this is because there was a resolution from the council in 2011 that we do this. That's not the reason we do it. We do it because on February 3rd, 1971, 73% of the voters in Austin voted to do this, to put fluoride in the water.
70s, that's not
Please.
And to override a vote without another vote of the people, I think would be entirely inappropriate. So with that, I'll move approval.
Motion approved by Councilmember Morrison. Second by Councilmember Spellman. Go ahead.
I pride myself way too much on being evidence-based, and I appreciate it every time you come up and say, we've got evidence, we have good reason for believing that fluoride is toxic. And I've read a lot of the stuff that you've asked us to take a look at. I read the National Research Council study, not the whole thing, it's about 400 pages thick, but I did read the beginning and I read pieces of it along the way. And they were very clear that in this volume, we're talking about high levels of fluoride to support a maximum standard of 2 milligrams per liter or higher, and not talking about levels between 0.7 and 1.1 milligrams per liter, which is the standard adopted by EPA. Adopted by CDC. We're at 0.7 on the low end of the recommended range from CDC. We're not at 2 milligrams per liter or 4 milligrams per liter. That study says very specifically that we're not talking about low levels, we're talking about high levels. If you're at 4, you need to get lower. I'm on with that. I'm also on with the idea that there is a neurotoxicity effect at very high levels. Here's my problem. When you cited, Dr. Carmen, you asked to take a look at the study from Lancet Neurology. I've got it in front of me right here. And mostly it references Dr. Grandjean's earlier research, mostly from rural China. So I want to take a look at that. And I am persuaded, again, that at some level, fluoride is going to be toxic, particularly developmentally for kids. Here's my problem. The rural Chinese studies, you're shaking your head, take a look at the study. The rural Chinese study looks at lots of studies being done in lots of places in rural China, and they have a control group and they have a high fluoride group. And they were able to show that the high fluoride group, there is a reduction in IQ of about 7 points from the high fluoride group to the low fluoride group. I'm persuaded if we were in that high fluoride group, I'm with you. We need to reduce our fluoride levels. Here's my problem. We have we have a lower level of fluoride in our water than the average for the low fluoride group, the average for the control group in that study. We're already at low fluoride relative to that particular study. That study doesn't persuade me that at the levels of fluoride we're talking about right now, there is a developmental effect. Now, there may be. And if you can find me evidence that suggests that there is, I will act on it. But I haven't seen it yet, and all of the evidence you've provided to me is not on point. It's levels of fluoride, which I agree are toxic. It's not at the relatively low levels we're talking about, which is at the low end of the CDC recommendation. So if you're interested in pursuing this stuff, I'm happy to help you pursue it, but I need some evidence that's on point, that says 0.7 milligrams per liter actually is toxic or developmentally toxic, or does have a direct effect on anything that I care about other than teeth. Because the studies that you cited that I take a look at with respect to teeth were actually very clear that 0.7 milligrams per liter did contribute to healthier teeth. That's the thing I can represent right now. Well, maybe you've got studies that suggest that that's not the case. I haven't heard you mention those, and I'm happy to send them to me. I'd like to take a look at them.
It's a cumulative effect.
It
accumulates.
I'm not preparing to get into a debate with you right now. If you have stuff that you need me to take a look at, or any of us to take a look at, please feel free to take a look at it. Please feel free to send it to us. All I'm suggesting now is that the vast majority of things that you have referenced over and over again as evidence that our fluoride levels are too high are not evidence that our fluoride levels are too high. They're evidence that through 2, 4, 12, the Chinese study looked at one community that had 32 milligrams per liter. That's too high. I'm with you on that. Send me some evidence on point, and I'll take a look at it. Until then, I think we have to protect kids' teeth.
You're wrong.
You're absolutely wrong.
At 1 part per
Ma'am,
collagen
ma'am,
breaks down in the bones.
I'm going to ask you to stop or
Let her
leave
speak.
the chamber.
Why don't you just let her speak?
You are poisoning us at simply
Take her out, please.
That's fine. At least we got a voice out. And it shouldn't take 5 years to get our technical because you guys know that you're wrong. You know that the proof that you guys are trying to use against
You're disrupting the meeting. If you want to be charged with that, just keep on.
My daughter's fluorosis. Don't say you're protecting her teeth. You're hurting her. This is her right here. Look at her teeth.
Do the right thing.
My daughter. Shame on you.
just for your information, it is a criminal offense to disrupt a public meeting. If you persist in that kind of behavior, you can potentially be charged with that. I wanted to let you know that. And we'll go on with our discussion. There's a motion on the table. I want to say, following Councilmember Spellman's, we have listened to evidence on this subject for several years. 5, I'll accept 5. We have gone to the trouble to send this item to a council committee and receive testimony from our health department here at the city. We've heard from other experts. I even asked my dentist, and his answer was unequivocal. Yes, fluoride in the water at safe levels is something that we should continue to do. So I've heard no scientific evidence to the contrary. I'll support the motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed say no. Passes on a vote of 7-0.